You're live.
All right, we are at the Village of Minerva Park Council meeting, September 28th, 2023. It is 7 p.m. and we will start with roll call. Councilperson McNamara.
Present.
Councilperson Camera.
Here.
Councilperson Wolf.
Here.
Council President Brugger.
Here.
Councilperson Martin.
Here.
And Councilperson Koss.
Present.
All right, and Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, next we will move to meeting minutes. And let's go to September 9th work session minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next, we will move to September 14th council meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
All right, that brings us straight into citizens' comments. I notice we have more than 2 citizens here. If any of you would like to address council, stand up. We'll give you 5 minutes to say what you want to say, and
Name and address.
name and address, and then we'll let you say what you want to say.
Well, I thought we were gonna hear the representative first from Ben.
He is scheduled under new business at the end of the agenda.
So he's not here at this point.
He is, not to rat him out, because he's got to stand up and say hi anyway, so I think it's okay to rat him out. He's the gentleman back there in the jacket.
Well, I would like to
Yeah.
say a few things.
Come right up, as we said, name and address, and if you watch the timer, you'll see the orange circle disappearing as the 5 minutes go down.
Oh, I've got a minute and a half.
Oh, well, I'm gonna hit the button anyway, because it's like
I'm
my
Jennifer
only job.
Dunn. We're at 2525 Jordan Road, and we live, very close to Jordan Foods. What I want to point out is that we are here not just about Minerva Park, that we are connected with the city of Columbus very intricately. The city of Columbus representatives have shown the desire to protect their citizens from inappropriate business placement by rejecting fireworks sales within their city. Now, the spirit of the Minerva Park Code was intended to only accept businesses that would provide needed goods and services to the residents of our village. However, Phantom Fireworks has chosen a path to circumvent the wishes of both entities. This attempt by Phantom is predatory and represents the worst kind of corporate greed in an already fragile and complicated area. Our village residents don't need or want fireworks, and why would we, given the distasteful issues that come along with it? Late night sales, inadequate parking, uncontrollable traffic for a no outlet street that is already stressed with the current volume, plus the child care facilities, residential dwellings in a large apartment group placed very close to explosives. My hope is to hear Phantom's representative state an intent to withdraw from this sale tonight, and any other statement is clearly unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time and comments. Anyone else who want, come right on up, same spiel I gave her, name and address, 5 minutes, you can watch the little orange circle disappear.
Thank you. Pamela Park Curry, 2559 Lakewood Drive. And I want to start by saying that I'm glad the representative is here. So while I am talking to you, I'm also talking to him. So first of all, I don't have anything personally against fireworks. I really like that they are legally only supposed to go off a few days, 16, 20 days a year, because I know how to use earplugs and go to bed on those nights. But I'm curious when the representative talks as to what he envisions as the customers for Phantom Fireworks. Is he looking and thinking, well, it's gonna be Minerva Park residents, maybe some people over in Forest Park, you know, just neighborhood customers. And that would be interesting to hear what he says. My guess is that he has a larger customer base in mind, that people will come from a distance to come and buy fireworks in Minerva Park. If that's the case, I feel that he has been misinformed about our zoning. Our zoning in that area is called neighborhood commercial. And if you look at the stores, there are things, as the previous person said, that we use on a daily basis. It doesn't list everything. Probably when that code was written, there weren't cell phones. So it doesn't list a cell phone store, but we know we use them all the time, and so I could see a cell phone store being put in there. When I went online and looked at the many really good places where Phantom Fireworks is, they are in areas that obviously serve a broader community. There's big parking lots, there's streets so you can easily get in and get out. People who travel for miles and buy fireworks. My guess is those are community commercial districts, not neighborhood. So our little neighborhood commercial district is very much like the commercial district for Upper Arlington on Lane Avenue or Westerville in the city, you know, it's just people go there to buy what they need on a daily basis. So having been misinformed, I would also like to have not only Phantom Fireworks, but GFS agree to withdraw from this contract and find another store that is more within our zoning of neighborhood commercial zoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time and comments. All right, still seeing a sea of people out there. If anyone's just being polite to not go next, or I'm gonna, there we go, someone's moving. I was gonna start getting a 1, 2, 3, going, gone sort of thing there, but we got some motion. Name and address and 5 minutes.
Yeah, wait for the clock, because I can't see.
Okay, well, I always give, because I have to be watching it to hit the button, then I turn it around.
Okay. Jelena Tinter, 2866. I'm here today, I wanted to talk real quick about what Rose just actually talked about for just a minute, and that's the neighborhood commercial. I first saw Mr. Abel, I believe it was, or somebody like that came on the 24th of August and surprised us all with at least most of the council members in order to tell the village, guess what, we have a new person in the village. Once I looked at, thank you Tony for telling me where to look, because I don't know if anybody's looked at the code before, but it's hard to find. But once I looked at the code, commercial retail, commercial neighborhood, and then you go into retail, professional and services, okay, ABC. Under neighborhood retail, my comment is that when he spoke the last time, and it has to do with Ohio's new consumer fireworks law, where they now tell you when fireworks can actually be set off, and talking about, how unsafe fireworks can be. They usually set somewhere between 18,500 fires a year. That might be nationally, I could be wrong, I don't think that's in Ohio. But what I wanted to say was something that he said to us. David asked, about native plants. Would they put native plants in? Without conditions, David, they can put whatever they want in. It does not matter. Stacy said, what are you good for? Eric said, well, they might be good corporate sponsors, maybe they'll give out, sparklers at at the 4th of July. I don't know. But my point is, he said that the location is what makes it so desirable for them to be in our village, as the location, because we're so close to interstates, and that, people from Michigan can get off West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Kentucky. You can listen to the August 24th school board meeting and hear that. The problem is the Ohio Consumers Fireworks Law, when it says who can buy fireworks, it says right there, fireworks bought in Ohio must be used in Ohio. So even myself, if I wanted to buy fireworks to take to my cabin in Michigan, I gotta go spend my dollars in Michigan to set off fireworks. So when they're talking about neighborhood commercial, that is not a neighborhood commercial use because they aren't consumed in a timely matter like a florist would, a bakery would, a grocer would. And I think it's, in my opinion, they came here because they thought it would be easy. They didn't go to Marysville, they didn't go to Lewis Center, go to Marion, go to somewhere else. I just think a burg inside City of Columbus that says no fireworks, coming in thinking that you can come in using it as a retail space is not what our zoning code says. And I hope you guys can agree with me at that. And I, for one, could care less. I don't care. It's not gonna affect me, so I have nothing against Phantom Fireworks. And I wanna tell you, I have friends that have been at the Grove City store. Beautiful store. It's a gorgeous store. It's clean, it's lit, it's beautiful, it's well stocked, and they love going in there getting what they need. It's not the right store here in our village. We've got school systems, we've got schools within our district. We've got daycares. We've got a gas line right there at Cleveland Avenue. We've got a one-way street on Jordan. You guys came, you're trying to get to the pool. Make something there that's a neighborhood commercial, that a shared use path would be something we'd say, are you kidding me? I'm jumping on the path across East Shore over Park Lane, down Jordan Road to get to the coffee house, or get to some kind of co-op, right? That's something that we want in our neighborhood. That's what we want. Nothing against Phantom Fireworks, bless you. I'm glad that you're here because it felt like an ambush last time. So the fact that you put it on and you became open and we're here and we can talk about it, I think it's a good thing. I appreciate everything you do, most of you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. All right, I'm sure you heard it, but I'll make it official. Name and address, and you will have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Erin Oxender. I live at 2011 Parkland Drive. All I really want to stand up today is to state for the record, anyone that's listening from home now or to this recording in the future, that we do have a petition circulating. This petition would put an issue on the ballot of the 2024 November presidential election to ban the sale of fireworks in Minerva Park Municipality. This ban would become effective for any business that is in the park or would like to come to the park. Again, my name is Erin Oxender. I am on Facebook. If you would like to sign this petition, please reach out. I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much.
That's great success.
All right, anyone else?
I'm gonna die.
Certainly, Mr. Benedetti.
Everyone, we've had some repeats. Tony Benedetti, 2937 Court. I'd like to piggyback on what Pam Curry is talking about, and that, our code does not allow for this type of business in that neighborhood commercial district. I don't know if you guys know Pam, but she's been on council, how many terms? 3, 4 terms? Quite a few terms. She was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission here in the village. If anybody here would be an expert in our code, it would be Pam. She's been doing this longer than most of you guys have lived here. And I'd like to, again, go over our code in that it specifically lists 10 businesses, 10 types of retail businesses that are allowed in the neighborhood commercial district. Fireworks sales is not one of them. Our code, if you interpret it correctly, it's that simple. That business is not permitted because it's not listed as one of the business in that district. If you look at our code, it goes on in all the different districts that we have. It has long, lengthy lists of the types of businesses that are allowed in those different districts. One of them says miscellaneous goods, miscellaneous merchandise, which under the retail sales. If it was intent of our code to allow any type of retail sales, that's what you're being led to believe, that in that neighborhood district, any type of retail sales are permitted. If you look at our code, if that was the intent of our code, is outdated and much need of work as it needs, it still does not allow that type of business. And I haven't heard anyone on council comment about this and say, no, Tony, you're wrong. That list doesn't matter. You know, somebody needs to explain why the code specifically lists different types of businesses, but this doesn't apply in this case. It's been brought up that we haven't enforced the code before, so we'll get sued if we all of a sudden decide we're gonna start enforcing the code correctly. You know, the one precedent that the village has set over the years is they don't really understand how to enforce our code. There's been so many rules or things that we've had to do over the years that were not based in code. I've spent the last 15 years pointing these things out. And this is another example of not interpreting and enforcing our code the way it is written. It's that simple.
Thank you very much for your time and comments. All right, now I'm gonna do it, unless I see some motion going once, going twice. Oh, there we go, we got some motion.
Ready?
Yep.
Hi, my name's Barb Sutton. I live on Minerva Lake Road, and I just wanted to publicly thank a member of our staff. On September 21st, the PD, thanks to Leah Klein, hosted an outstanding first responders event. And Leah, who is also our police clerk, our mayor's clerk, our HR person, our assistant fiscal officer, and 90 other things that I can't mention, took upon herself to plan an extraordinary event, and I would just like to recognize her publicly for that. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Okay. And I'm seeing head shaking no, so I think that will bring public comments to a close. Citizens' comments, I believe it's how it's technically said. And we will move on to legislation. All right, starting with ordinance 14, 2023, an ordinance to establish the K-9 fund. Third reading on this. This, of course, is the fund that is currently being supported mainly through donations. Councilperson Camera showed me they made 183, was it 83 or 86?
It was 86.
$186 in donations and whatnots from the first responder night, and that is to help pay for the costs of our very own police dog, Kimber. I move passage.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any debate? I think we're ready, Madam Mayor.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Council President Brugger.
Aye.
Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
And Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
All right, moved and passed. Awesome. All right, and on to ordinance 15, 2023, an ordinance to establish first responder retention incentive fund. This is our third reading of this as well. Going back for people who haven't been here at previous meetings, we received a sum of, I believe, $28,000, and that's going to get mentioned in the next one, from the federal government to help retain and promote first responders and officers. Of course, we only have the police for that. We are going to establish a fund for that $28,000 and then give it to our policemen and women. Third reading, I move passage.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilperson Camera. Any discussion? I believe we're ready for that vote.
Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Council President Bruger.
Aye.
And Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
All right, moving on to ordinance 16, 2023, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the Village of Minerva Park for the year of 2023. The aforementioned $28,000 that we had from the government, from the federal government, now needs to be put into the fund that we just created. For those of you at home thinking that's weird, that's how government works. We cannot switch money from one account to another without passing an ordinance to make it happen. This being its third reading, I move for passage.
Second.
We'll give that one to Councilperson Wolf. Just share them out.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All right, I moved and seconded. Go ahead with the roll call, please.
Council President Bruger.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
And Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Okay, and now for an interesting one. Ordinance 19, 2023, it's not really that interesting. An ordinance to authorize the mayor and fiscal officer to enter into a contract to purchase a new police cruiser, through the state of Ohio competitive purchasing program and declaring an emergency with an intent to waive one reading on this. Some background on this, we purchase a new police cruiser every year. Normally, we do not feel the need to rush it. However, we have been informed that the police cruiser that we currently enjoy using, the style and model, they will not be making in 2024, and they will not be making them again until 2025. Is that correct, Chief?
That is correct. The only ones that they're making in 2024 are to backfill the orders that didn't get completed in 2023.
Gotcha. So we are trying to get on there and get one of those so we don't have to wait till 2025, which is why I am going to move that we waive a reading and then pass as an emergency. So I will make that motion to waive the third reading of this legislation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, we need to vote on that first.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
Council President Bruger.
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
All right, having waived the second or the third reading, I move passage of ordinance 19, 2023 as an emergency.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilman McNamara.
All right.
Any discussion on it? Did not think so. That's why we have legislative committee before this.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
Council President Bruger.
Aye.
And Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
All right, moved and passed. Moving right along, Resolution 2023-30. A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and declaring an emergency. For anyone who heard the word levy and was weirded out by this, this is not anything like a new levy. This is telling the county that we still, yes, use the money that they give to us from various other levies that we're entitled to, and that, yes, this is our budget, we need that money, don't stop giving it to us. Part of the reason that we are looking to waive readings and pass as an emergency just comes down to the county deadlines.
I believe
And-
October 1st.
of October 1st, but sometimes they don't get their side of the paperwork back to us until the middle of September, and then say you have to have it back to us in 2 weeks. So I am going to start by moving that we waive the second and third reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Go right ahead.
Council President Bruger.
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
And Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
All right, having waived the final two readings, I move passage as an emergency.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any debate? Moving on to roll call.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
I did that twice.
Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
And Council President Bruger.
Aye. And for those of you who I don't read these things, I did notice I had a double copy of that before reading the title again.
There you go.
All right. On to Resolution 2023-31, a resolution accepting, approving, and ratifying the submitted recommendations of the Tax Incentive Review Council and declaring an emergency. As part of our TIF fund that we pushed through a few years ago, there is a council called the Tax Incentive Review Council that has to meet once a year to talk about it and make sure it is still going on. We then have to wait for them to submit their minutes to us, and then we have to pass a resolution saying they had a meeting and they submitted their minutes to us. We are looking to waive the readings. We have been waiting quite some time for the minutes and need to get this officially on the books. So I will move to waive the second and third reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any debates? All right, having moved and seconded, I move passage as an emergency.
Councilperson,
Oh.
yeah,
Wait, hold on.
What am I
Did
doing?
we?
no,
No, we have to vote.
We didn't
No.
vote.
We didn't
Thank
vote.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. We didn't vote. We were rolling along so quick. I
we're
almost
just
rolled
doing
over the
this,
valve.
This
we're,
is the waiving.
This is the
waiving.
waiving of the reading. Thank you very much, Councilperson Wolf, for keeping us on our toes as I go off the
Okay.
rails.
Jason's got that one too. He
And-
was on it.
And Councilperson Cameron.
are we doing, okay,
So we are voting on waiving of the readings.
got it. Okay, Councilperson Koss,
Aye.
Councilperson Martin, Councilperson Camera,
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf,
Aye.
Council President Brugger,
Aye.
and Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
All right, now that we have actually voted and waived the readings, sorry for the mix-up there, everybody, we can vote to pass it as an emergency, and I move to do such.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any debate? All right.
Councilperson McNamara,
Aye.
Council President Brugger,
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf,
Aye.
Councilperson Camera,
Aye.
Councilperson Martin, and Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution 2023-32, a resolution to amend and revise amending the Minerva Park fee schedule and to declare an emergency. This is just a first reading of this. We do not actually have a second and third reading necessarily timed out yet. For those of you who are curious, why are we changing the fee schedule? A lot of this is going to come down to when we sit down and have a conversation about things like renting the community room in the new building, if we're going to put in any sort of procedure or rental fee for renting the shelter house. As people know right now, it's just there, and I've driven by and seen parties going on, and it's first come, first served. We're going to set up some rules for those, possibly some fees. I know even in the old community building, I believe it was $50 to rent it. So that was an existing fee that was there that we're going to look at. Just so you know, anyone out there who's wondering, like, oh, when can I rent the council building? We have the legislation started. We even have it as an emergency, so once we make those decisions, we can pass it and people can sign up. And that has been read. Okay, moving on to our last item here, Resolution 2023-33, a resolution to amend the rules of council and calendar as was approved in Resolution 2022-01 and declaring an emergency. Rules of council are, of course, the rules that guide the operations of council. One of the sections in it is rules guiding going into an executive session. For instance, if something needs to be debated that involves an employee or is considered to be of too much private interest for the public, we go into executive session. This past January, when we passed rules of council and we had them in a big stack, the page with the executive session rules somehow was left out. So technically, we did not include that in our thing.
That is correct. Just to jump in on that.
Please
the
do.
The fact that it was not included in the council rules didn't mean you didn't have the legal right to do it. This is very much a belt and suspenders approach. All we're doing in the council rules is codifying the Ohio Revised Code provisions.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep.
That is a good thing. When we went into executive session, for instance, to choose a replacement council person for one who had stepped down, we were still allowed to do that. Thank you, Jesse. There's really no change to these rules of council. These have been rules of council for several years, perhaps 10 or more years. Again, they were just omitted from this year's as an oversight, which is why we're going to try to waive the readings and pass this as an emergency as well.
Can I, sorry, I need to ask this.
Yes.
Because I didn't catch it in legislation. It says end calendar, and I don't see any attachment around the calendar.
It was in the original
So,
packet, but it
is
was.
that, are we,
Yeah, it was in the original packet.
So it's okay to not include it
the second time.
so do we need to change
Yeah, I think,
what it says?
he's saying,
There was a correction on the calendar on the original when we moved meetings from Mondays to Thursdays.
Yeah.
And so the legislation just kind of talks about the rules of council and calendar as an entity. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense.
so that is just the title for our packet of rules,
Yeah.
and we're using the official title.
Gotcha.
Okay, wonderful question. I had not caught that. Thank you. Okay, I am going to move that we waive readings.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Take your pick. And I will actually wait for the vote this time.
All right, Councilperson Cost?
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara?
Aye.
Councilperson Camera?
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf?
Aye.
Councilperson Berger?
Aye.
Councilperson Martin? And sorry, we normally don't go this far. You're not president once we get this far down.
That's all right.
I just, like, wait, where's the president?
It's not like I'm flexing president muscles up here, like, oh, everyone knows me because I'm president. Trust me, I talk to enough people at the garage sales. No one knows me.
I saw you, I knew you.
You did, but I had a lot of people that I talked to, and they said, wow, you seem to know a lot about stuff happening in the government. And I said, yes, I do.
That's funny. Don't worry, people don't recognize me either, so. All right, next.
Next, we're on old business, I believe.
No,
have to move for
Emergency.
Oh, we now need to, we got off track. That was your guys' fault for distracting me. Having waived the second and third reading, I move that we pass ordinance 2023-33 as an emergency.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All right.
Councilperson Martin. Council President Bruger.
Aye.
Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
And Councilperson Cost.
Aye.
All right, so in legislation, and back to you, Business Mayor.
All right, old business. Do we have any old business anybody up here would like to talk about? I don't know if any of mine's old. Okay, I'm gonna use mine in new. No old business? Okay, next we have new business. I actually do have a couple things, so I'm gonna go first. Just as a reminder, we're starting to get to leaf season. You reminded me of this yesterday. Mid-October is when we start picking up leaves, and please do not put them in the street. That's my plea. You're gonna hear it every single meeting from here until December. And then this is just an FYI. We are finally coming to the end of construction at 2829. We will be moving back into that building, we think, October 5th and 6th. We will be by appointment only. Obviously our servers are gonna be down, our phones are gonna be down. We will be doing the best that we can do. Obviously we are still up and running, but there will be things moving from point A to point B, and I'm just gonna remind everybody that we are the ones that move. It is the village employees that are packing the boxes and that are doing all of those things. So we will be using maintenance, Barb, myself, we will all be the ones doing it, so it is very difficult to actually do both. But we are gonna do our best. Anybody that needs anything, please reach out. It's just not gonna be as fast as it typically is. By Monday, 9 a.m., we are extremely hopeful that we will be up and running 100%. So super excited. So bear with us over the next week. And that is actually all I have. Next, we will move to our presentation by Phantom Europe.
Who presumably has a name, but
I don't know it.
I know, but it was just funny to say by Phantom.
I'm gonna assume he's gonna introduce himself.
Hopefully.
I do plan to, yeah. Mayor Southern, President Bruger, members of the council, I appreciate the opportunity to be before you today. My name is Daniel Peart. I'm Director of Government Affairs for Phantom Fireworks. Before I started, flattered by the turnout here. Despite the context, I do think that it's admirable that so many people are willing to come up and get involved and at least observe what's going on in your community as opposed to sitting on the sidelines and complaining about it after the fact. So I do commend you on that. With that said, I know that one of my colleagues was here about a month ago and gave you a similar presentation, so I'm going to attempt to limit the duplicative nature of some of the things I'm going to talk about. Before I start, I did want to talk about a couple of basic safety stats, and I know some of the conversations that took place when Jack was here and since then, so I wanted to give some background information on some of the history of our commodity and what consumer fireworks actually are. Briefly, from 1994 to 2021, fireworks consumption in the United States has increased by 265%, while fireworks-related injuries have decreased by almost 75%, 74.78%. More relevant, from 2019 to 2021, consumption has increased by 57% in the United States, while fireworks-related injuries have decreased by 25% in that same amount of time. I have yet to find another consumer-driven category where usage has increased at such a dramatic level while injuries simultaneously decreased. So I wanted to give a little bit of a background on our product and hopefully answer some of the questions or maybe calm some of the concerns about what it is that we sell and our product. A little bit of perspective on those numbers as I talk about the amounts of increase that have so dramatically gone up. When I say 2021, usage has increased over 265%. For perspective, that equates to over 428 million pounds of fireworks imported to the United States every year. So it is not a small amount. Similarly, that number in 2021, the injury number, that is now the lowest number of fireworks-related injuries ever realized in our country. That's something that we're very proud of. A couple of quick reasons as to why we believe that is we're bringing in a better and safer product than what was going on 30 years ago. Reason for that is, in 1994, a volunteer third-party agency was created by the fireworks industry itself, the AFSL, the American Fireworks Standards Laboratory, in which Phantom Fireworks was a founding charter member of that organization. What the AFSL does is they test the fireworks through a third-party testing organization at the factory level in China before the product ever gets onto the boat and comes to us. And they test to the CPSC standards at and above the CPSC standards for many of the products that come in. So it's not the same industry, it's not what was happening 30-some years ago. We have formalized and we have made great strides in what it is that we're doing. Beyond that, a more educated customer. Now, those are usage stats, and we're not here really talking about usage, I'm here more talking about the sale of fireworks, but there is a parallel between the two because we are talking about possibly bringing the same commodity in that people are using. So the safety is relevant, and an educated consumer has also led to a much more educated seller as well. And Phantom Fireworks, we can confidently say, is we are the leader in fireworks safety. From the type of building that we built, I appreciate the comments you made about our Grove City store. I think it's quite nice myself. But not only are they nice and colorful and pretty, they are the safest fireworks buildings you will ever see or visit in any state in the country. And that is something that we're quite proud of. Just to substantiate the numbers that I mentioned earlier, when talking about the number of fireworks coming in, those numbers come from the U.S. Tariff and Trade Commission, and the injury statistics come from the CPSC, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, in their annual fireworks report that comes out each year. A few examples about some of the buildings that we built. Any showroom that Phantom Fireworks builds or retrofits exceeds both the Ohio Building Code and the International Building Code for any retail type business. We've amassed experience in erecting over 85 showrooms, permanent facilities across the country. In that time, we have gained a plethora of experience in dealing with the Ohio State Fire Marshal, the Ohio Department of Industrial Compliance, detailed plan review before any showroom will ever even open. And then this includes the ongoing monitoring and multiple site visits every year in each one of our locations. Our units have a fully integrated fire suppression system. The building that we opened in Grove City and the building that I'm talking to you about here today would actually contain an ESFR type sprinkler system. That's probably Latin to the majority of people in my room. That stands for early suppression, fast response. And that is the type of sprinkler system that ejects, if necessary, 3 to 4 times the amount of water that any other sprinkler system you have probably ever seen in your life. You don't see an ESFR sprinkler system in a retail setting. It's typically in a manufacturing, high pile storage, extrusion type facility. They don't exist in the retail setting. But hopefully that demonstrates some of our commitment to safety and how seriously we take our business and our customers' experience. Along with the suppression system, we have a state-of-the-art fire alarm system with a fully integrated smoke evacuation ventilation system. The way that we construct our buildings, we'll have an emergency exit door located 75 feet from any point in the retail floor. Typically it's 250 feet. We would have a minimum of 6 exit doors in the retail space. In any big box store, a Walmart, a Best Buy, or anything like that, typically 2 or 3. So we'll have at least twice that amount. Not to mention fire-rated walls and doors providing fire resistance of anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. Any additional concerns, questions, or if anyone wants to check our references, I would strongly encourage you to contact City Council, Fire Department, Police Department, and any of the communities in which we operate in Ohio. We have 14 stores in Ohio now. Quickly, Grove City, Montrose, Millersport, just east of here, Canton, Boardman, Youngstown, West Salem, Toledo, Curtis, and Fayette. Those are both in the Toledo area as well. Amelia, which is just east of Cincinnati, Mansfield, Bloomingburg, just south of us here, and Wheelersburg, Ohio, part of the east. We have taken seriously some of the comments that we've gotten from most of the public. We've listened to some of the meetings that, I think the last meeting that took place, it might have been a code review meeting 2 weeks ago. And there were some citizens talking about we would have dynamite and black powder in our stores. Again, I'm sure some people understand that that isn't the case, but I am here to tell you that we sell consumer fireworks, and that's it. We sell some t-shirts too. But we sell consumer fireworks. Dynamite and black powder are not consumer fireworks. If we were to sell any combustible in our stores that is not a 1.4G consumer firework, every store that we have in Ohio is done. So we take that seriously. We certainly don't deal in dynamite and explosives. People think about M80s and cherry bombs as the next logical step if you come down from dynamite and explosives. Those are items that have been federally outlawed since 1966. You will not find those in any reputable fireworks store in the country, certainly not in any Phantom fireworks store. People talk about mass detonation. You know, the store is going to blow up and leave a crater where it stood and endanger all the houses and businesses around our store. I won't bore you with the nerd speak of the chemical construction of consumer fireworks, but I can confidently tell you, and please check me on this, mass detonation is chemically impossible when it comes to consumer fireworks. If I had a box of assorted fireworks right here, and I threw a firecracker, if I threw a strip of firecrackers in there, that strip of firecrackers would go off. Everything else in the box would remain safe. That is not how consumer fireworks work. By definition, consumer fireworks burn. They do not explode. Can't happen. The industry in Phantom has undertaken some testing in the last many years. Most notably, some testing that we did at a facility in, I think, San Antonio, Texas, called the Southwest Research Institute. We were testing sprinkler system design at that time. And we constructed a representative showroom sample in this fire testing facility. We had shelving, we had all the safety measures that would be in place in any showroom that we have in Ohio, sprinkler system, metal shelving, vertical flame breaks in between the product, a canopy on top of the product. The reason for these is, God forbid, something were to ignite in this section of shelving right here, the vertical flame breaks prevent it from propagating to the next section over. The canopy shelving on the top stops it from ejecting across onto the other side of the store. We take these things pretty seriously. Beyond that, I wanted to take a second to address how Phantom typically operates in the communities where we do. We take being a good corporate citizen very seriously. It is commonplace for us to get involved in local initiatives in every location where we operate. And again, we have 85 locations around the country. Little League, soccer leagues, police and fire departments, festivals, fairs, talking about a canine fund. We got involved in one of our Ohio locations a few years ago, and they needed a new canine. And we happened to use the local police there for security in that showroom. We got involved and helped them get a new canopy. Being a good corporate citizen is very important to Phantom Fireworks. It means a lot to us. We want to be embraced by the community that we're in, so we show that by embracing the community that we're in ourselves. We have a long history of working with the communities in which we operate. We have launched Respect Your Neighbor campaigns in multiple locations where we operate. You remember the old Uncle Sam posters, I want you to join the U.S. Army? We took that and we say, I want you to respect your neighbor. We have a similar situation in Daytona Beach, Florida, where parking was an issue. And we got together with the community, enlisted the help of the local NAACP chapter, and we made sure that we alleviated the county's concerns or the city's concerns in Daytona with parking, trash pickup on the beach, all of those things. Advising consumers where they can and can't ignite.
Yes, I hate to interrupt you. I'm just going to point out, we had decided last night about 15 minutes was a fair amount of time for you. You are not out of that yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it is down to where there's 5 minutes left, so I was going to turn this around because I don't want to have to cut off or what have you, just so you can time it out.
It's good timing. I'm actually on my last sentence.
Oh, well then, I just wasted all of that nonsense.
I know that there have been concerns about what the landscaping would look like if we ended up moving into Minerva Park. I know there have been concerns with parking and egress. Those are things that are commonplace for us in working with the community when we go in. The plants that we have to put in, the green space, certain parking, those are not insurmountable tasks for us. To us, that's the cost of doing business, and we've got years of experience in dealing with those types of things. I do have some pictures. Some of them you have already seen. I'll leave them with the council. Please, any interested parties, please take a look at them. They'll show both the inside and the outside of some of our locations. Hopefully that paints a little bit better picture of how we do business and how we tend to operate. That said, again, council, Mayor Southard, I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Open to anyone on the board here who would like to question.
I got a couple questions if that's okay.
Okay, do you guys want to just kind of go from one right down the road? Like, how, what do you guys? JP, do you want to start and then we'll come?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And then we'll end with Chief in case Chief has anything.
This basis of the question comes from the fire that occurred in West Melbourne, Florida. This fire occurred due to an automobile accident where a driver crashed into the store. Cleveland Avenue has an average daily traffic rate over 20,000 vehicles per day. What safeguards will be in place to prevent a vehicle crashing into this building?
Well, I know the building that you're talking about. It's an old Shoney's restaurant. If anybody remembers the old Shoney's restaurant, it's a largely glass front restaurant there. I don't think that's the case with. Yes, sir.
You mean not Shoney's, you mean GFS?
No, the building that.
The building that you're
the
talking
fire-
about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the Melbourne, Florida location. So I don't think it would be as non-resilient as that. But we're happy to adjust the front construction of the exterior of the building to limit that. Typically, we place bollards on the sidewalk, kind of where the parking lot meets the sidewalk in front of our showrooms there, so people cannot drive right through that and turn our stores into a drive-through. We're more than open to anything like that. That's something we're happy to do.
But why didn't you do that with that store?
It's an older store.
Didn't you mention that you would retrofit those stores to meet the highest safety standards?
Yep. And we have the same sprinkler system and everything else in there. That we didn't have an ESFR in that system, but we did have a sprinkler system in there.
But
We were
preventing
never
cars
asked.
from driving into it is not a consideration.
Pardon me?
But preventing cars from driving into the store was not a consideration.
Well, in 40-some years and 85 showrooms, that was the first time that had happened. So live and learn, but you bring up a good point. And I think we'll certainly do what we need to do to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Based on the 20,000 average daily vehicles on Cleveland Avenue, the Jordan Road intersection is likely to become even more difficult to navigate. Well, what is Phantom's plans to ensure that traffic doesn't become a larger and bigger issue and a burden on the residents even further?
Well, I think in a lot of our locations, certainly we do a lot of business around the 4th. That is our busy time. Around, once you get outside of the 4th, we're more of a decoration than a retail facility. So I think we have some ideas that we can share with things that we've done in other locations. We use security in all of our locations. In Ohio, it's actually a statute, it's mandated. We have to have security on site for 2 weeks leading up to the 4th and then a day or two after the 4th. That might be a situation, or maybe we have to have an additional officer helping to direct traffic to make sure people can get in and out safely, make sure they aren't exiting out into a road where it's not going to lead onto an exit, it's only going to lead into a neighborhood. But I don't think we would be so bold as to undertake that ourselves. I think we could come to the council and the city with ideas and take some of those ideas and make it a collaborative effort so it works for everybody. Thank you.
So thank you for coming out and giving time to explain more of the Phantom Fireworks positions on things. I also want to thank you for recognizing the native plants or native planting requirements for Minerva Park projects. My one question is with regards to the gas line that's nearby. Has that been factored in to the plans for Phantom? Because that was a concern that was brought up fairly early, the presence of this underground gas line. I'm just curious as to what Phantom's experience with mitigation or working around this kind of thing is.
Sure, I appreciate the question. I don't want to play coy with you. I am a government affairs guy. I'm basically a lobbyist and code guy. I don't build the building, so I can't speak to you exactly what steps for remediation that we would take. We do have a full-time engineer on staff who's been dealing with the state of Ohio for more than 20 years and local government as well. So I'm confident that we can make sure that we're operating the safest possible way. It brings me up to another test that was done years and years ago. If you're talking about underground gas lines, I've seen a video where we took a 20-foot container filled, stocked with consumer fireworks, wall to wall, floor to ceiling. Took it out in the desert somewhere and lit it on fire. 20-foot container, packed, you couldn't get another piece of paper in there. The fireworks went off. The trailer was fine. You didn't want to use it after that. But it doesn't explode. It didn't leave a crater in the ground. So I'm fairly confident that our commodity is not a threat to anything underneath the ground, underneath the soil. But to your point, again, I mean, these are things that we deal with on a consistent basis. And I hope that if that's a concern, somebody brings it up and we can make sure that people's concerns are put at ease.
Yeah, I don't believe it's directly under it, but I know it to be fairly close. And I guess my concern is simply, the presence of that being a factor as well as the traffic backups that could be caused. I know it wouldn't be an everyday thing, but definitely something that I'm sure would need to be considered 4th of July, New Year's times. But yeah, I mean, I grew up not next to, but near a fireworks place, and it never detonated, so.
Still hasn't.
That's not an imminent fear of mine. I just want to do, the due diligence for the community.
Yeah, again, it's, the ingress and egress, I understand, is an issue near and dear to this community's heart. And we would be committed to making sure that we address that in a way that's mutually acceptable for everybody. And if it doesn't work the first year, then we come back and do this again and figure out what the right step is for the next year.
Thanks, and thank you for mentioning explaining the fire suppression systems. That was another one of my questions, what that would look like.
Yeah, again, so that if you want to look that up, it's ESFR, Early Suppression Fast Response. It is the Cadillac of sprinkler systems.
Thank you.
Does that exceed state of Ohio's fire code?
It does. So the requirement in Ohio would be an ordinary hazard Group 2 sprinkler system. I go a little nerd on you. I think that's about 0.25 gallons per minute per sprinkler head, and ESFR is about a gallon per minute per sprinkler head.
One last question. How exactly would Phantom Fireworks benefit Minerva Park?
Certainly tax revenue. Somebody mentioned a question about foot traffic and everything. We would hope that the people of Minerva Park who want to celebrate Independence Day will come to Phantom Fireworks. No question, other people in Columbus will come. There's no question about that. So there will be increased traffic, and they will frequent your restaurants and your gas stations, and increasing the tax base and apart from that.
We just have houses.
We don't have.
We have houses.
Somebody's got to build it down there, right?
We got to use Starbucks.
One.
Maybe we'll get a
used
Starbucks.
car.
If they come, maybe Starbucks will come.
Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. As you might not know, actually, we're a fairly tight-knit community. What do you know about Minerva Park, and what led you to the decision that this would be a good place for your business?
Well, we certainly, the area is certainly a desirable area. This section of Columbus is certainly got population. We have a pretty good idea of where our customers are coming from. We have pretty good demographic data. We have a lot of customers in this area and all around Columbus, and this gives us the ability to get closer to them. So that is particularly the driving force. If you want the honest answer, if it's not us, it's going to be somebody else.
Okay. What do you know about the traffic situation at the end of Jordan Road and Cleveland Avenue?
I know what I have learned in the last week, and I did stop by this location earlier today before I came to the first meeting, and it's, I understand that, I forget the name of the road, Jordan turns into something else.
Park Lane.
Park Lane. And I understand that's a dead-end street. I know that there's no light there, and maybe that's something that we have to investigate further down the road
Okay.
to help that kind of traffic flow.
Great. Are you aware that traffic studies have been performed and it is not possible to place another streetlight so close to the existing light at GFS and Teakwood?
I'm not, but thank you for telling me.
So how would you proceed from that if it's not possible to put a light there?
I would consult with people much smarter than I on traffic flow and retail ingress and egress.
What if I told you all of that has been done?
I would tell you, then we'll have to find another solution.
Have you taken into consideration that the anticipated traffic to this area can potentially trap residents at the end of the street, preventing them from being able to access emergency care for themselves and their children?
We certainly thought about some of the specifics, and many of those specifics have been brought up by either members of the council or members of the citizenry. As I said, improving and streamlining ingress and egress into the parking lot is something that we'd be committed to. We understand that it's an issue near and dear to the heart here. So it's something that we would be interested in working with the council to improve and make sure that it doesn't become a burden. We don't want to be a burden anywhere we come. We don't want to operate somewhere where people don't want us.
Okay. How large is that parking lot? How many cars can it accommodate?
I'm sorry?
How large is that parking lot? How many cars can it accommodate?
Again, that's just not my area of expertise. I don't want to employ that I don't know.
There's about 60 parking places there as we speak.
And then, as we mentioned before, there would be, 50 seasonal employees? How would you accommodate parking for all your customers?
Sometimes we'll enter into parking arrangements with neighboring businesses, and we'll actually traffic our own staff back and forth.
Most of those parking lots are full. Would that
We'll have
mean
to find
that
a
your
solution.
customers would park on Jordan Road?
I don't know if that's an acceptable means. I don't know if parking is allowed on Jordan Road or not. If it isn't, then we'll do our best, and we'll work with the community to make sure that our customers and our employees aren't infringing on any of the people that live down the road there.
Okay, how would you enforce that?
Well, I don't think we'd be able to enforce it. We could certainly enforce where our employees park, but in terms of guiding and instructing and advising our customers where they are, that may be the situation we talked about before. We have traffic cops, not somebody sitting in our parking lot directing traffic in other locations. And if that's a necessity and that's what has to be done, then that's something we've got experience with, and we certainly aren't opposed to.
Do you anticipate that that would take away resources from our officers?
When I say traffic cops, I meant that kind of tongue in cheek.
Okay, would you expect our officers to regulate traffic for your business?
I have no expectation on the matter.
Okay, but is that something that is precedent in your other locations?
There are certain locations where if the local police force is available for private security, not all of them are, we always prefer to use local police for security for the reasons that I mentioned before. If that works, then that's great. That works for us and it works for the community. If it's not, then sometimes we have to put someone out there in one of our own purple shirts, directing people that you can't go this way.
Okay, you mentioned your other locations in Ohio. How many other facilities do you have that are of similar layout and location as this potential location at the end of a dead-end street?
I'd have to look. I would say probably at least half of our locations are in heavily commercialized areas. We're talking about here, we're talking about Stringtown Road in Grove City. Off the top of my head, I could name 10. And if I really sat down and looked at it, I could find a couple. Dead-end streets, I would have to look. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay. How many customers do you anticipate, and specifically around the peak season?
How many? A lot. In the thousands.
Okay.
Over time, not daily.
Okay. With 60 parking spaces?
They typically don't stay all day. They come and go.
Okay. And then I guess my last question is, I wrote this down, sorry. The Consumer Product Safety Commission reports that fireworks interiors have been significantly trending upwards in the past 15 years. That kind of contradicts what you said about safety. Can you comment on that?
I can comment on that, and I can tell you that the fireworks injury report from 2021 was the lowest firework injury rate, as the CPSC measures it, in the history of the CPSC's measuring of consumer
Do
fireworks.
you think that has anything to do with COVID and not specifically firework safety?
That would actually go the opposite way. For an answer that nobody, to the question that no one asked. In 2020 and 2021, the fireworks industry was one of those unusual benefactors of Corona. I don't know why. But anybody in this industry will tell you that 2020 and 2021 were landmark years for the fireworks industry. Things are settling back to the means right now. So for that to make your point, that would be counterintuitive.
Thank you. I think that's all I got.
I have a couple little things on that. Where they had mentioned 50 seasonal people, do we expect 50 seasonal people working every single day at the same time? Would it be likely that you would have that many employees at the building at the same time?
Shifts.
I mean, what's an average in a day?
It depends everywhere, right? I mean, it depends on the amount of business that's coming in. I could think very easily that we would have 25 to 30 people on staff at a time.
Because I was thinking totally different, and then when you started talking about how many people, I was like, okay. There is currently a light at GFS. So my thought was whether or not, and I know that we're way too far past this, but closing off Jordan Road to where you guys couldn't exit that way except for an emergency exit. You know, that being fenced off, that would add you guys a couple extra parking places as well. And utilizing only the GFS exit. I don't know if that's possible. I do have people actually looking into that right now because I'm the third house. I know you're the first house. I get a lot of turnaround traffic. So again, this isn't, it's not something that I could see more people coming down through if they were coming out that way, not realizing that it was a dead end. So I've looked at, I walk that area, everybody knows that, like 50 times a week. So I've counted the parking places, I've done a lot of that different stuff. So I don't know if it's possible, but that was one of the things that I had talked to Eric about today. Is it possible to, and I don't know that it is because it's a corner lot, but that would be one of the things I would be interested in finding out. I know for emergency vehicles, it would be nice to still be able to get through there for an event.
Gate, not a wall.
A gate, yeah, something like a gate or something like that. But to make it to where we are not bombarded with excessive people pulling out right there. It is very difficult for us to get out as we speak with GFS there. So, I mean, that's probably the hardest part for me is knowing that it is difficult to get out already. But if we didn't have that, exit, I feel like for us it would be a night and day difference. And maybe I'm wrong, but that was the first thing I had thought of.
As you get to know the community, I suspect you'll find that the biggest concerns relate to the Jordan Road access and the logistics around there.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add, if we walled that off, I don't think their trucks would be able to access any. How would they actually have shipments delivered?
There's plenty of circulation on the site, and this is something we would work out with the applicant, depending on how we go through the process and when the process starts. And they have a lot of experience working with different municipalities.
Would you say it is pretty accurate that the excessive season is probably 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 week? Is the excessive?
Yeah, I don't want to misrepresent. We'll start getting, around Memorial Day, we'll get some customers in there. It'll be as busy as GFS is now. The way that it works, and typically, this is where our experience does come into play. When you're in a metropolitan area, people will not come until the last minute.
Right.
So for that last week, it'll be busy. Before that, you'll notice people there, but it's not going to be like that last week. We are the most uber seasonal industry in the country. People buy Halloween masks for an entire month. People buy Christmas trees a month early. People buy us 4 to 5 days early. And those are the planners.
How does your online sales work?
Currently, we do not do online sale.
Meaning pickup is what I'm saying. So they,
Well, just
Order
place
to
an
pick
order.
up.
yeah, how's that affecting, is that affecting it in a positive way, would you say, from the traffic standpoint, where people can plan, the planners, I'm trying to get to that aspect of your business.
You know, we test piloted that in the COVID year.
Right.
And people like to come in. People like to come into the store, they like to walk around. For some reason, they don't mind the crush of the traffic in that last week. It's crazy to me. But the online sales never really took off the way that they do. There's an opportunity for people to place an order through our office and then come and pick it up. That's a smaller percentage. We are actively exploring, we have been actively working in development to try to work online sales. For us, because we're an age-restricted product, obviously it presents some challenges. Like actual mail order.
Oh, interesting.
Jason, did you?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good.
Brian?
I'm fine.
Jesse, do you have anything?
No, thank
Eric?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna finish with Chief. Just because I didn't know if you had absolutely any questions.
From what I've heard, it sounds like the traffic situation is going to be limited to specific dates surrounding a couple times per year. The police department is able to help manage that during that time, as long as it's short-lived. I don't know if it's going to be as short-lived as you say, and speaking to other departments around your other locations, it seems to be about 3 to 4 weeks prior to the 4th of July. Everything starts picking up, and right up to the 4th of July, it seems to be very, very just extremely traffic heavy. And in that location, there's no place for that traffic to go other than Jordan Road. Or they're gonna be lined up on Cleveland Avenue causing any kind of backups up there. So I'm interested to see what plan Phantom Fireworks is gonna have to mitigate that. I understand that throughout the year, it's gonna be just in and out traffic and very minimal impact. But during that peak season in the hot days of July, I anticipate that's gonna be a lot of work for us.
Yeah, I appreciate the thought there, and if I may, just respond to what you said there, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm up here misrepresenting anything. They're not wrong, the people you talk to that say 3 or 4 weeks is when things start picking up, that's true. But when I say that we're the most uber seasonal business in the world, that's also not wrong. You go into one of our stores on July 5th, it's like someone shut off the water, there's no one there. On July 4th, it's very busy. So when you get into, really it's Memorial Day for us, that's when the first noticeable bump in business that we see occurs. We turn into a regular retailer at that time, meaning we have some level of customer flow throughout the day. To give you an idea, we'll typically operate those days with 1 cashier, maybe 2. But we have some customers coming in versus virtually no customers coming in. The closer you get to the 4th, the busier it is. But that last week is when it's, and I'm probably numb to it to a degree, that last week is busy. There's no sugarcoating it. It's very busy that last week. Even the 10th day before the 4th, the 14th day before the 4th, there are people there. But I can tell you from our staffing numbers, they're fractional compared to what they are for that last week. So we get an average customer flow starting on Memorial Day, and actually that even dies down a little bit for about a week or so. And then it will start slowly building back up, and then it's just that week before, usually that weekend before the 4th of July, they come. They come.
One other question that we heard a couple times a couple weeks ago, was the hours. And that was brought up at the very first meeting, and I think you said sometimes you guys stay up until 1. Obviously, I went to the website. I did see that there were some that closed at a little bit more of a normal hour. I mean, is that something you guys are willing to work with us on if all of this does work out to where in that busy week that you wouldn't be open till 1 a.m.? Because I think he said 1 a.m. Is that something you guys would be willing to look at?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, I think we were open until midnight for about a week, and then 1 a.m. for a few days, maybe the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, or
Right.
something like that. frankly, the reason we do that is to try to spread
Spread it out. Yeah, that makes sense.
And we'll start opening earlier too, for that same reason.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, again, we're open to anything, but that is their reasoning for that.
And I figured that. I don't have anything else. I don't know if anybody else. Is everybody? Okay, first, I want to thank all of you guys for coming, asking questions, being here. I know it's a lot to take in. I want to thank you for coming. I know you guys have reached out to us twice already, so again, that is appreciated.
Move to adjourn.
There you go.
There's no Q&A real quick.
Second.
You guys can
I
talk.
mean, you can, if you wanna catch him in the parking lot and chat, but.
Where's the tax money go to?
We moved and
Yeah, we moved
seconded.
adjourned.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hold us out, Madam Mayor.
Oh, jeez.
It's on the front. It's right in front of you.
Well, most of it.